Kia ora, it's Kathryn here from Help. It can be really helpful in ending sexual violence if people know more about it, but not everyone wants to know right now. So this is for you, just if you're interested. I'm going to answer some common questions and talk about some things that survivors want people to know. If you have a specific question, please email me k.mcphillips@helpauckland.org.nz. Any talk of sexual abuse can be painful for people who've been impacted by it. So if that's you and today isn't a good day, then please just watch this another day. So today's question, what is grooming? This is a critical thing to understand as it is very common in sexual violence and tends to confuse victims and their families, often leading them to blame themselves. So what does grooming do? Well, it helps the person to get access to a victim. It also keeps the victim quiet so they don't raise an alarm at the time or tell afterwards, and encourages others not to believe the victim if they do tell. Grooming is done to the person who is an intended target and to the system around that person, whether that be a family, a workplace, or society at large. So for example, if we look at the sexual abuse of children and teens, so grooming would begin with the person making the child special in some way, so that the child will hold that special secret and will accept some inappropriate behaviour. Making the child special, that might be spending time with them, buying them presents, or having shared jokes at the expense of other members of the family or group. Because of being special, the child or young person is more likely to not call out when the first inappropriate touch occurs. And that first touch wouldn't usually be what we would call sexual abuse. It might be a hug or a rub on the back or something which could be inappropriate or not, so it blurs the boundary. It might be a step over a line, but not way over. So this confuses where the line actually is. And so if you've accepted that first touch, it's really hard to call the next touch, even if that one is a little more invasive than the one before. The person might also threaten the child or young person to keep quiet. They might say things like, "It would break your mother's heart and she won't love you anymore." Or they might make physical threats to hurt the dog or to hurt someone that the child or young person cares about. The person would also usually be grooming the family to get access and to split them off in some way from the intended victim, so they're less likely to believe the person if an accusation is made. So this begins with making a connection if one doesn't already exist through being a family member or a friend. The connection gives access, and then they will build their reputation. They want people to think of them as that great guy or someone special. Special in part because he really takes notice of our kids, or one kid in particular, often the one who is less popular than others. No surprise that parents naturally feel grateful for this rather than suspicious. Once that connection is established, the person might start to blur some boundaries. This might be physically spending time with a child or young person alone in a way which is outside the nature of their relationship. So for example, they might be a music teacher and invite this particular child or several children to a special concert at the museum. This is like testing the waters with the parents, seeing if they're okay with them spending time with a child, and then they move on to other activities. They might also split the child off from the family in other ways. A common way is raising a credible concern about the child not always being truthful. Now this is really easy to do, as most of us are not 100% truthful about everything, though mostly we are about sexual abuse. But this split can mean the child is less likely to be believed if they make an accusation. It might be a gentle suggestion about lying, or they might drive quite a wedge between the parent and child by lying to each of them about the other. This is more able to happen if the person is very close to the family, maybe living with them in a step-parent or similar role. So, those 3 grooming steps, making an intended target and themselves special, blurring boundaries, and then splitting the person off from the rest of the group. We also see these steps with adults. A good example is with workplace sexual abuse. In the workplace, a person can use the power that they have to make an intended victim special. They might take them on as a protege or get them a quick pay rise or promotion, or if they're powerful enough, they just need to notice them to make them special. Then gradually some boundaries will get blurred. In this setting, it's likely to be between the work and personal relationships and then involve touch. Threats in these situations may not be overt, but quite inherent in that workplace hierarchy. So somebody with more power can take another person's job away or destroy their professional reputation. Grooming the system in the workplace can also follow a similar pattern. The person might try to enhance their reputation to be seen as that great guy or great boss, though actually in the workplace, if they already have sufficient power or influence, they may not need to do this. Blurring the boundaries. So this might be getting the wider staff used to them making a few jokes which are considered risque, or touching everyone a lot. Basically, it's desensitising enough people in the workplace to this blur of boundaries that any accusations of behaviour being over the line would just be considered as more of this. And then splitting. The person might quietly raise some issues about an intended victim to undermine their credibility, or they might treat them as so special, so different from the others, that jealousy or perceptions of unfairness mean there is no support for the victim when they reach out for help. So with this knowledge about grooming, what can you do to make a difference? Well, it's helpful to remember those 3 steps. The first step, making people special, both an intended target and themselves. The second step is blurring boundaries, in relationship and with touch. And the third step, splitting a person off from support, emotionally or physically, or both. It's also good to remember that this grooming can be done with individuals, families, or other groups. So what you can do, if you see it, disrupt it. Do things like check with the potential target if they're comfortable in the relationship, or if anything inappropriate has occurred. Even if it has, they might not feel able to tell you at this point. So let them know that if they do start to feel uncomfortable or something does happen, they can talk to you. Call out the blurring of boundaries. Name any inappropriate touch you see or feel. Avoid being split. Be suspicious if someone is trying to undermine someone else's credibility. You can make a difference. Thanks for listening. Ngā mihi.